What up guys, Rancer890, welcome to more iRacing. This is probably my first setup guide in the IR18. We are at Mid-Ohio. I think the only other non-racing guides was the impressions video, initial impressions video at Barber. I don't remember if I did a lap guide at Barber. I might have, but I don't remember. So this is the guide that I do remember, which is Mid-Ohio. So Mid-Ohio is home to IndyCar, Pirelli World Challenge, and for this season and hopefully many seasons after this, the IMSA series. So I'm talking about real life. So the race is actually this Sunday, this upcoming Sunday. I'm recording this on a Sunday, so the following Sunday is the actual race, which is why we're here this week. So it's a very fun track to drive. It's not exactly the most popular. I don't know if it's just because people just don't really know about it, but it's one of the crown jewels, hidden gems of American racetracks. So it's not complicated, as I kind of mess up the keyhole right there. It's not overly complicated. Out of probably the elevation tracks that I've run, this is probably one of the easiest ones. Of course, easy quote unquote is relative to each individual sim racer, but for the most part, once you kind of get the hang of it, it's a very, very fun track to drive. So the official series is going to run for 45 laps, I think. So you're probably going to need not necessarily full tank, but at least 33 gallons is usually a safe one. So Mid-Ohio, yeah, it also used to have Camel GT races with the which is also on iRacing with the Nissan GTP and the Audi GTO cars. So you can check those out as well. They sometimes on the schedule, although they use the Mid-Ohio chicane layout, which is a bit different than what we're using here. So I don't think there's really anything else to say, so I think we'll just go into the track guide. See you there. Okay, that was a lap of Mid-Ohio in the IR18. I guess we're just gonna go straight into the guide. So it's pretty similar for the most part with the DW12. So I guess we'll there are minor differences, but the gist of it is pretty much the same. So here you're kind of turn one's a bit different. So here I'm thinking of braking before the grass turns into pavement. You kind of see between the 100 sign, the jegs sign, the way the pillar kind of changes angles. So that's kind of where I brake. So as you can see here, I am in 5th gear, so I'm downshifting to fourth. So it really depends on the setup that you have. Some just have longer gears, some have shorter gears. I've always preferred shorter gears at Mid-Ohio. So usually just brake, downshift, try and hit that apex to your left. So here I'm shifting. I'm trying to make sure that I get as close to that yellow curb on the inside as possible, but you don't want to hit it because that will lose you around 3/10 probably. So the one thing about that I've noticed while testing myself is that it's really easy to miss it. That's usually due to not turning the wheel enough. So here you can kind of see how much wheel I'm turning. Obviously that will depend on your setup as well. If the setup has high caster, you'll probably need to take more effort to turn the car. If it's, I wouldn't say low, but if it's a reasonable amount of caster, then just use a reasonable amount of force. If you have high caster, obviously you're gonna have to use more. It's gonna be a bit harder to turn in, so make sure you can turn into the apex. If you miss it, you're probably down 2/10 at least. Well, 1500s to 2/10 around. So good news is that a lot of people miss it. The bad news is that the people who don't miss it are really good. So yeah, just try and you kind of see where this is almost as good as I can get with turn 1. So if you miss turn 1, it's not the end of the world. You just have to work a bit harder for the rest of the track. So make sure you track out properly as well. Do not hit the grass on the exit. Hit the yellow curbs like so. So here you're just gonna keep going straight. This is the keyhole turn. Depends on weather, depends on setup, depends how much downforce you have. I usually brake between the 200 and maybe the 175 to 150 board. It really depends. The thing is that if you do miss it, you do lose 2/10 at least, 2 to 3/10. It depends how badly you miss it. Just because this is a really hard corner in the IR18, so it's taken me quite a bit of time to actually get it right. So you can kind of just get close to the 200 and then just brake a bit later and later until you find something that's comfortable. Find a brake bias that you're comfortable with and with the car not spinning. So yeah, just go to the 200 or a bit after that. Brake, downshift into first gear. Try not to get too close to the curb until corner exit. Bit of a late apex here, just with the way the corner is. Make sure that when you straighten the wheel onto the little straight, quote unquote, until you get to China Beach, make sure the car is pointed in the right direction. Make sure your steering wheel is pointed in the right direction. If it's not, you have a high chance of spinning. It really depends on your diff as well, of course, but you kind of don't want the car to spin. So I use a quite aggressive differential. So even veterans like myself and other people, we make mistakes every now and then. So if you're new, then make sure that everything's straightened before you apply the throttle. It really doesn't matter if it's fuel map 1, fuel map 6, or fuel map 7. You're probably going to get the same issue with all of them. So here, make sure you hit the curb on the yellow curbs on the left. Use all the track. As you can kind of see there with my exit at the keyhole, it wasn't the most clean, but I'm still moving. So it could be a bit more cleaner than that. So here I usually start braking at the 200. I could brake a bit later. Really depends on the tires, the brake bias that I'm using, downforce, etc. Well, and as well as the weather. But usually it's the 200. If you brake 100, it's way too late. Let's. If you could go to the 100 and brake your, that's out of my realm. So 200 is usually a safe one. Maybe you can push it to 175, quarter between the 200 and 100 boards. So but 200 is usually a safe one. And so brake there, hit the apex, try not to take too much curb to the right. Sometimes I do that and you lose a little bit of time. The car kind of gets unsettled through the next series of corners as well. So I just clipped the curb on the right a little bit, not too much. Just trying. Some people take different lines through this section. I usually just take the line that's on the track. So it works for me. Some people take a wider line, and it works for them. It really just depends on how you learn the track. So, but this is how I learn the track. So I'm just going to tell you what I usually do. So I'll second down to first. Make sure this transition is very, very easy to loop it. If you take too much throttle, you kind of see where my wheel is. It's almost 90 degrees. No. Yeah, it's almost vertical. So try not to be careful on throttle application here. I'm usually very, very careful. But mistakes happen, doesn't matter if you're a veteran or rookie. Just try and, because it's right onto the left, there's a lot of grass and sand and tire barrier, and if you hit the tire barrier, it's game over. So don't do that. So here, hard to kind of talk about this section just because right after that uphill left, you're going to go right, and I usually try and scrub enough speed and turn the wheel enough so I can make that apex. This section is pretty tough just because you're turning the wheel, making sure through the elevation changes and making sure that you don't loop the car, because it's really, really easy to loop the car. Mid-Ohio in itself is a simple track, quote unquote simple, depends on how much experience you have on road courses, and as well as combination with the IR18 or DW12. There's differences, but there's similarities. But if you can get a good rhythm through this section, you're pretty good. Usually it's just making sure in this section you scrub enough speed to hit the apex. So I'm already on the brakes right here. So I'm nowhere near it yet. So I usually turn the wheel a lot. I feel that with my own setup, it kind of fits my own strengths with being consistent. So see how much wheel I'm using. Using basically 90 degrees to the right. That's a lot of the time with this track that I'm realizing is that sometimes you miss the apex just because you don't turn the wheel enough. So if you feel you're missing it, rather than just going into setup, which you can do, whether it's add more downforce, whether it's change something else, just to get more forward bite, with spring rates, dampers. First thing is just to make sure that your steering inputs are reasonably close to the apex, and then you can kind of worry about all the other stuff, and then you can worry things about just car balance and so on. So here, to me this is a pretty tough section just because of the uphill crest. I usually short shift from first to second, and then I just go to third, fourth, and then I go shift back down 2 gears, just to get the car stabilized. So this section is Later on in the stint, it can get a bit squirrely. So what I suggest you to do is that if you feel that the car is getting light and the rear's about to snap, just try and hold it. It'll be very hard, but in a race you'll probably just try and make sure that you survive. So just kind of just lift off a little bit, or lift off a bit. Make sure you have control of the car. Hit the apex right in front of you. You're either going to be in third or fourth, and then you downshift twice into second. So here, make sure that you hit the apex here, and then you're going to be in that section, which to me is probably the hardest one for me by far. So here I'm still turning the wheel, I'm braking, I'm making sure that I'm following this darkened pavement area, just because it's just really the racing line. So I'm in third gear, I'm going to shift down to second gear, and this I'm going to have to explain a little bit about it. So here, once again, if you're not turning the wheel enough, sometimes I'm like a half foot off the apex and I kind of lose 2/10. So make sure you get as close to the curb on the right as possible. This part is really important, just because I've seen so many people make mistakes here. So number one rule here at this section is to make sure that you're kind of like the keyhole, except at the keyhole you won't really die, because most likely it's a right-hander, but there's a lot of runoff. There's a lot of grassy runoff to the on the right side of the track. So worst case, you'll lose time. You won't bin the car. This section, you can bin the car. I've seen many people bin the car. I have bin the car. So here, make sure that A, steering wheel straight, B, you're putting just enough throttle application to get the car moving, but not just jabbing right on the throttle, because you will spin 100% of the time. No differential will save you. And C, just hold on, because that's pretty much just how it is at this section. So here you kind of see how my throttle response is just basically, you kind of look at the throttle bar, it's just not increasing till I get over that crest a little bit, and I feel that I can turn the wheel back into a safe position to full throttle and finish up the last three corners of the track. Three corners of the track. So here I'm just so here I go full throttle here. So that's right when I'm going downhill. Okay, that's usually the safest thing. If obviously aliens will have their own alien tendencies and you can just go and they'll survive, but if you're mid-pack like me, or you're lower mid-pack, death is honestly a lot higher than you think it is. So make sure that you are going downhill before going full throttle. So hit that curb on the left, that yellow curb, and then make sure. So here, I would say in different weather, you kind of treat it to corner differently. Obviously, different weather, you can change wing angles and stuff. So this setup I used for the same in 91-degree track temp, and the default track temp is I think 104 or 105. So that's a 13-degree difference. And as you know, in iRacing, 13 degrees is a lot of time. So here, if you're in hotter temps, I actually messed up a little bit. I probably cost myself 2/10 here. So I'll tell you what I did and what I should have done. So here I just braked at my usual point because I was in a hosted session and the track temp was cooler. So here I would brake a bit early. So here I start braking at the 200. So here I start braking at the 200. I would suggest to brake a bit earlier or mess with the brake bias. Or alternatively, just brake or let off the gas a bit early and then coast a little bit. So here I just brake here, not a lot. So here I think I'm braking a bit too late. So I probably need to start braking it right before, right? Maybe around here or something, because here I'm in 4th gear and I'm basically maxing out the revs. So I would guesstimate brake around here in hotter temperatures. And then make sure everyone takes this section differently as well. So this is how I take it. So here sometimes I usually, what do I call it? I experiment a lot. So for this lap, I'm just in 3rd gear. So here I'm in 4th gear, brake, downshift into 3rd gear. Here I kind of missed, actually I don't kind of miss it, I really missed the apex of this. So here I definitely should have braked earlier, but the goal here, the objective here is to hit this apex here. And the reason, because I did not hit this apex, I was not able to get on throttle early. So here I'm on full throttle here, and you kind of see where I am on the track. I'm supposed to be, I don't know if my OBS can see my mouse, but I'm supposed to be right where that curb is, and I am half a car length off, or maybe a bit more than that. So the goal is to, so I didn't scrub enough speed, or maybe I didn't turn enough. That's another thing that you could also look at. Make sure you hit this apex. Because I did not hit it, I basically had to make sure. So you kind of see, the entire complex. The rear of the car kind of just got a bit loose there. So here I'm a bit off, and it's going to affect my entry and exit into this last section of the track. So here, usually what I do is, depending on track temp, just because of how my gearing works, and I'm too lazy to change it, sometimes I keep it in 3rd, sometimes I move it up to 4th. If it's in lower temperatures, I'm always going to shift up to 4th and then immediately downshift back into 1st. This temperature is always 50-50. I don't really know what I want to do. So here, usually 4th, and then immediately just downshift in the section down to 1st gear. So what I do is I usually take a tighter line through here. I usually take a tighter line through here, and I kind of follow the darkened pavement area, and then just hit this apex right here, try and hit, and then make sure the car is stable, because this last left-hander is also really related to wheel spin. So in a previous race for a league, I was just staying in 2nd gear, which I felt was totally the wrong decision. Downshift into 1st if you need to, short shift back up into 2nd. It will probably save you a little bit of time. So hit your apex here, make sure that you kind of let the car roll. So here, let's see. So I'm kind of for the most part off throttle, and then I start getting back on throttle right past the apex, almost at the end of the curb. And then here I'm full throttle, but make sure that this dip is really, really challenging as well. If you can just, you'll spin the car. I've seen people spin the car. So here I'm just, so here I'm almost 75% throttle, just making sure that the car is in front of me. I'm still in 1st gear, and then full throttle, and then you're at the front. So that is your lap of Mid-Ohio. Hopefully it was useful. Hopefully I covered everything. So I would say, if you want to summarize, main points, outside of the obvious, hit your apexes, blah 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 blah. Make sure your steering wheel is straight when you accelerate going up and down the crests. Make sure that you don't throttle too quickly, or else you'll spin. And turn the wheel. If you're not making the apex, you're probably not turning the wheel enough. And depending on your setup, you might have to turn the wheel more, turn the wheel less. So that's really, your mileage may vary. So that is pretty much all I have. I think I covered everything I needed to cover. If you need more information, comment. If you think I said something wrong, comment too. So I'm not the best dude for these kind of things, because I'm not an alien, but I know what I'm doing most of the time. So if there's anything that needs to be, any questions, queries, comments, leave them all down here. I might do more guides. I think I'm in the mood to do more guides for other tracks that might not be on the schedule, but I think I have a good understanding of everything. So I think I babbled enough. Hopefully the guide was useful to you. If you have any more questions, any other setup questions, I don't give up setups because it's a team thing. But if there's any questions related to it, I can try my best to help you. I only do road stuff nowadays. So hopefully we will see you on track. Hopefully we can see you on track. Hopefully you can see how this car races with the IR18, because I have plenty of good races in the DW12 here. So I think the IR18 will be equally as entertaining to race as well as spectate. So hope you guys enjoy this video, and we will see you guys next time. Goodbye.